First off, I do want to say thank you to the church and the church family for prayers and support. And it has been a few weeks that have been emotional highs and emotional lows, and health deciding to go in and out and catch up and with all the travel. And as Pastor Todd said, I've been gone the last couple of Sundays, and I will say this is also, it's good to be back in my home church. You know, as I went to church while I was gone, but there's just something about being in your church with your church family. And I'm glad to be back. Like I said, the last few weeks, highs, lows. If you don't know, my 40-year-old little brother passed away a few weeks ago. And as I've told people who have asked about it, it was expectedly unexpected. He had lots of health issues, so knew it was a possibility, but wasn't really expecting it at that moment when my mom calls me up and says, "We've lost him." And it's interesting what happens, you know, especially when you're looking at somebody. I remember when he was born. I remember watching him grow up. I remember all the ridiculous movies I got to watch because I had a little brother. So, you know, because I really wanted to watch him, but I couldn't watch him because I was too old and too cool. But I had a little brother, so I was able to get away with that kind of stuff. And I don't think it really sunk in until I got to California and walked into my parents' living room and happened to see a little box sitting on a shelf. And looking at it, and the tag on there has my brother's name, a number, and some other stuff. And it's like, it's hard to take what I remember to see that now that's my brother's in a little box. Remember when my mom called, it was on a Saturday night, and said, you know, basically told me, "We've lost your little brother." The emotions that you run through, and I was very thankful that in one respect that it was a Saturday night because I was able to come here and be in church and be with people that love and support and will pray with you. I just remember sitting in back and praying and wondering, where do you go? How do you deal with this? This is not the order it's supposed to happen. I was talking to my other brother, and you know, we were talking on the phone. I said, "This is not the way it's supposed to happen." I says, "We're supposed to be burying mom and dad, and then you guys are supposed to bury me, and then our little brother's supposed to bury you, and then I don't know who buries the little brother because we're all gone by that point. But this is not the way it's supposed to happen." And I had all those emotions as I'm sitting in church and asking God, "Please give me something." And this little thought that I'm going to speak on today is what God dropped into my mind that Sunday. It's not going to be anything long, elaborate. It's going to be a very simple thought. We're just going to talk about the unexpected storm. We go ahead and go to the next slide. Mark chapter 4 is where we're going to be today. Mark chapter 4 starts out with Jesus teaching all day on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. In this time, he's teaching in parables. It's like 4 different parables before we get to actually the main passage we're going to deal with today. But one of them was the parable of the sower, and most everybody knows that. You say the parable of the sower, you know, everyone knows what you're talking about. Jesus was teaching all day. And when evening came, he decided we need to go to the other side of the lake. So they all get in the boat and they start heading out across the lake. If we can go to the next slide. We're going to start in Mark 4:35. As evening came, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let's cross to the other side of the lake." So they took Jesus in the boat and started out, leaving the crowds behind, although other boats followed. But soon a fierce storm came up. High waves were breaking into the boat and began to fill with water. We can go to the next slide. Actually, go to the next slide and then one more. That's what I wanted to take out. I had it in the wrong order. Sea of Galilee. This is the picture of the Sea of Galilee at sunset. This is probably, I would think, what it might have looked like when they left. You're getting ready to go to the other side. Sea of Galilee, just some interesting facts, just so we know. We hear about the Sea of Galilee a lot. It's talked about a lot in the Bible. Jesus spent a lot of his ministry around the Sea of Galilee. Sea of Galilee is the lowest freshwater lake on earth, at approximately 700 feet below sea level. At its widest point, the lake measures 13 miles from north to south and 7.5 miles from east to west. Its deepest point has been variously estimated between 140 and 200 feet deep, and its capacity is approximately 100 billion cubic feet of water. So not an extremely large. It is a lake. It's really not a sea, but they call it the Sea of Galilee, so I'm going to call it the Sea of Galilee. I'm not going to change that. The lake's total area is 64 square miles and has a circumference of about 32 miles. So, interesting things, but one of the most interesting things is storms on the Lake of Galilee. And it's known for its violent storms, and the storms come up suddenly. No warning. So the Sea of Galilee is known for its violent storms, which can come up suddenly and be life-threatening for any on its waters. The tempests are caused by the situation of the lake in the Jordan Rift with steep hills on all sides. The cooler air masses from the surrounding mountains collide with the warm air in the lake's basin. Winds sometimes funnel through the east-west oriented valleys in the Galilean hill country and rush down the western hillsides of the lake. The most violent storms, however, are caused by fierce winds which blow off the Golan Heights from the east. He said one such storm in March of 1992 sent waves 10 feet high crashing into downtown Tiberias and caused significant damage to the city. So these aren't storms to play around with. And like I said, they come up suddenly. They're not, it can, from what it sounds like, you can be leaving, it looks like this. You get out in the middle, all of a sudden this storm kicks up. So comes up with the unexpected storm. We can go ahead and go to the next one. Mark continues to tell us, Jesus was sleeping at the back of the boat with his head on a cushion. The disciples woke him up shouting, "Teacher, don't you care that we're going to drown?" Find it fascinating that this storm's happening. We saw the description of the storm where the waves are coming over, filling up the boat with water, about ready to capsize it, and Jesus is asleep. Wasn't worried. The other interesting thing is the disciples woke him up, and I don't think it was any, Jesus, hey, Jesus. No, it's shouting, so I'm thinking they're, Jesus! Don't you care that we're going to drown? Can almost imagine Jesus getting up and stretching, looking around. What's the problem? I don't know. It doesn't tell me that, but I can just sort of imagine. It seems to be sort of, if we go to the next verse, when Jesus woke up, he rebuked the winds, said to the waves, "Silence, be still." Suddenly the wind stopped and there was a great calm. And then he asked him, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" The disciples were absolutely terrified. Who is this man? They asked each other. Even the wind and the waves obey him. So like I said, that sort of seems to go towards the attitude of Jesus, sort of like, what's the problem, guys? Don't you believe? Haven't you been around me enough to know if I'm back there asleep, don't worry about it. But it's a very hard thing to do when a storm crops up in your life, especially when it's unexpected, especially when you don't see it coming. Sometimes you see something happening, and it's a little easier to prepare for it, to maybe get ready, brace yourself. But when a storm just all of a sudden comes up and hits you broadside, you have no idea it's going to happen. It's a little hard, and I can understand the disciples. A little hard when you're in the middle of that storm that all of a sudden cropped up to go very calm. Well, Jesus is asleep in the back. Okay, we're good. The other thing is we're not talking about people that were not used to the Sea of Galilee. At least 4 of them that I know of were fishermen that fished on the Sea of Galilee. So if it's scaring them, you got to wonder what kind of storm this was. That they're there trying to wake Jesus up going, don't you care? You're just back here asleep taking a nap. So I would think, if the God of all creation is in the back of the boat taking a nap, I don't think you should worry about it. But like I said, it's hard to do when, the storm comes and just hits you. And the thing about it is Jesus gets up, just calms it. King James puts it, peace, be still. Peace. Wanted to know why they were so afraid. Why did they not have it? I like, how it's put is, do you still have no faith? It's like all the stuff you've probably seen at this point. The miracles, the teaching, listening to me, hanging out with me all this time, and you still have no faith. One of the things I was reading actually brought a point, interesting connection that I'd never really thought about, and with this story is that here they're going across the lake, Jesus is asleep, and the disciples are all worried that Jesus is back there asleep. In their time of terror, trial, tribulation. But if you flip it to the Garden of Gethsemane, who was asleep at the garden during Jesus' time of trial and tribulation? It's rather interesting. Just, they wanted Jesus awake for their troubles, but couldn't stay awake for his. Life can give us unexpected storms, things that can hit us out of the blue. This is by no means a comprehensive list that I'm about to go through, but these are things that I could think of because recently this is sort of what I've been going through. One of them could be death of a loved one. Like I said, my brother was expectedly unexpected. I knew it was going to happen, but it just, not then. Some people get even, more broadsided than that. You don't have any warning. Something happens and somebody tragically dies. Just times of depression. Loss of a job. Financial hardships. Maybe being led to because of the loss of the job. Lots of things that add stress to your life. Breakup of a relationship or a marriage. Sometimes you don't see that coming. I said there's many other things I'm sure that we could add to this list. This is just a short list. But the thing about it is when we have these unexpected storms, we do not have to go through them alone. Number one, we have a church family we should be able to come to. Should be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm struggling. This came up in my life. And have people that will come up to you and be able to pray with you, to be able to talk with you, to be able to maybe help you through that situation. A lot of times it's like, I wonder about people, how do people handle this who don't have a church family? Don't have people that they can go to and say, I'm struggling right now. Something has happened in my life. Can you please pray? Like I said, I'm very thankful that I had that. The day after, I was able to come to church and people were able to pray. People were able to give support. You know, it wasn't easy, but, you know, it helped. It was something that gave strength. You know, and throughout these last few weeks, you know, life has been up and down, and, you know, there's good days, there's bad days. But knowing that there are people that are praying can help bolster your faith. And that's the thing. I think we need to know that we've got people that we can rely on. A lot of times, you know, we have this tendency to go, you know, well, I've got these problems. I don't want to tell these people my problems because they might think I'm weak. They might think badly of me. We in America have this tendency to be individualistic. I will take care of it myself. I don't even think that's biblical. You know, Bible tells us two are better than one. Why? Because when one falls, there's somebody there to help them up. If you fall when you're by yourself, there's no one there to help you. And the second and most important thing is God is with us. You know, we are told that he is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. And I just went through some scriptures, and this is also by no means a comprehensive list. Just started out and figured, let's go Old Testament to New Testament. Deuteronomy chapter 31, Moses talking to Joshua and the children of Israel on his deathbed, said, "So be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid and do not panic before them. For the Lord your God will personally go ahead of you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you." So then Moses called for Joshua, and all Israel watched, and he said to him, "Be strong and courageous, for you will lead these people into the land that the Lord swore to their ancestors he would give them. You are the one who will divide it among them as their grants of land. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord will personally go ahead of you. He will be with you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you." Psalm chapter 23, very familiar. Verse 4, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley," or as the King James puts it, the valley of the shadow of death, "I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me." So he's with you, no matter what you're going through. Psalm 46:1, excellent chapter to read. Excellent psalm to read the whole thing of. I'm not going to do the whole thing, just Psalm 46:1. "God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble." Isaiah 41:10, "Do not be afraid, for I am with you. Do not be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you up with my victorious right hand." Matthew 28:20, it's while he's given what we term the Great Commission, right? As verse right after it, "Teach these new disciples to obey all commands I have given you, and be sure of this, I am with you always, even till the end of the age." Think about that. Isn't that amazing? I mean, just this is not even, there's more. John 14:1, "Do not let your heart be troubled. Trust in God, trust also in me." Skipping down to 27, and the rest all in between is really good to read too. "I am leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give you is a gift the world cannot give. So don't be troubled or afraid." Wow. Think about that. Whatever you're going through, I mean, if we go back and look at what Moses, and then we're talking about Joshua, and talking to Joshua and saying, God will personally go ahead of you. So you're going into a storm. It may be unexpected to you, but God's already been there. I know the one thing you always hear, a lot of people like to say, God will never give you any more than you can handle. I don't think anyone's ever found that in the Bible. But it does talk about making a way of escape. Well, you know what? When he goes through, he's going before you, making that way. So if you need it, you've got it. I'm going to go ahead and end it with Isaiah chapter 43, verses 1 and 2. It says, "But now, O Jacob, listen to the Lord who created you. O Israel, the one who formed you says, do not be afraid, for I have ransomed you. I have called you by name, you are mine. When you go through deep waters, I will be with you. When you go through rivers of difficulty, you will not drown. When you walk through the fires of oppression, you will not be burned up. The flames will not consume you." So no matter what we end up going through, unexpected, expected, anywhere in between, He is with us. He is going with us. He has gone before us. And that Sunday, when I was sitting back there, that passage in Mark is what came to mind, but also a couple of songs that we sang growing up. One that we sang in the choir is called Peace Speaker. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but it basically, the chorus goes, "I know the peace speaker. I know him by name. I know the peace speaker. He controls the wind and rain. When he says, peace be still, they have to obey." So I know the peace speaker. I know him by name. So no matter what you're going through, you know the peace speaker. The other song was another one we would sing. It's called Wonderful Peace. The chorus on it is just, "Peace, peace, wonderful peace, coming down from the Father above. Sweep over my spirit forever, I pray. In fathomless billows of love." Think about that. I don't know what any of you are going through. I don't know what you may be about to walk into. But think about this. You know the peace speaker. You know him by name. The Bible tells us that the Spirit that raised Christ from the dead, that's what's in us. So why do we walk into these situations, even if it is unexpected, and are afraid? Because we know who is walking with us. You know, it may be tough. You know, there may be times when your faith may bottom out, but that's when it's good that you have people that are with you, that be able to lift you up, pray for you. Because sometimes it is hard to remember that we have this power, that the power of the Holy Spirit is residing in us. It's easy to forget because we're human. You go through, and the other thing to remember is the Bible tells us that Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. If he did this for the children of Israel back in Deuteronomy, if he did it for David in Psalms, if he did it for Isaiah when he was, you know, during his time, if he did it for the disciples, he's going to do it for us. I want to go ahead and, as our closing prayer today, I want to go ahead and sing this one more time. And then take some time. Maybe you are going through something. Maybe you are struggling with something right now. Be encouraged. You have people here that care, people here that will pray with you. But most importantly, you have the Holy Spirit to lead you, to guide you, to give you strength, and to be able to speak peace into your life.